I'm Katie Wells, host of the Maximized Minimalist podcast. I escaped the hamster wheel of modern-day motherhood, overwhelmed by clutter and buried under the mental load. Now I live in a home that feels calm, manageable, and made for real life. I have margin in my days, energy for who matters most, and time for slow mornings and silly dance parties in the kitchen with my family. With over 5 million listens, the show has helped women around the world turn their homes into their happy place. Around here, we simplify for more peace, more presence, and more joy. We choose grace over guilt and progress over perfection. And we believe your home should give back more than it takes. I'm here to help you do the same. Come along with me and my guests as we share the real stories, habits, and strategies that help you lighten the load from the inside out. Pull up a seat, friend, and let's do this together. Ready, set, simplify. Have you ever had one of those weeks where it seems like you're doing everything right? You're checking off your to-do list, you're juggling home, work, family, all the things, yet you get to the end of the day and you're feeling like completely drained. Or if you've ever thought like, why can't I just keep up? I'm doing all the things. This episode is for you. Today, I'm sitting down with Heather Chauvet, author, coach, host of Emotionally Uncomfortable Podcast, another podcast host for you, to talk about a new approach. And this is so refreshing. I'm so excited for this conversation, a new approach to productivity that has nothing to do with squeezing more into your already busy, overflowing schedule. Heather teaches what she calls energetic time management. Love that name, by the way. It's a simple but powerful way to plan your days around how you want to feel, not just what needs to get done. This conversation is going to be honest, hopeful, and it might just change the way you approach every week from here on out. Heather, welcome to the Maximized Minimalist Show.
Katie, I am so excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you. My voice usually does not sound like this. I have a cold right now, but this is going to give me life and energy. So I'm so grateful to be here.
Same. So many productivity methods focus on managing time, but you teach women to manage their energy instead. So why that shift and what difference does it make in someone's life? And how did you identify that? I'm assuming through the means of just your own personal transformation.
Yeah, I have to go back. I tell people oftentimes they'll see me or look at me and I'll be like, I've been doing this for 20 years. And they're like, what? Were you like out of the womb? But the reality was I became a mom when I was 18. And that was my first moment of like, I was so deeply terrified of failing as a woman. And I'm using air quotes as a woman, because motherhood is one of those like primal kind of like instincts. And because I felt insecure, I was like, I can't fail. I swung so far to the other side where I became the overachiever, the doer. And culturally, I was getting pats on the back.
Yes.
I was like, they're like, oh my God, you got this. And internally, so I call it like, my soul was like, not this, not this. But I was like, we can't listen to that right now, Heather, because you got to do good. You got to be a quote unquote good mother, good woman, good human, whatever. And so I kept doing what I was quote unquote supposed to be doing. And I was seeking out mentorship. I was seeking out help. And it wasn't until my son was like started school and the school starts calling and they're like, his behavior. And so he and I started to co-create together. It was like something would happen and then I would need to learn how to solve that problem. So fast forward to 2013, I was diagnosed with a stage 4 cancer. And at the time, Katie, I had 9 years of personal development under my belt. So I had the mentors before it was cool. I read the books. I attended the retreats. And I could not understand. I was like, I don't understand this like manifestation and law of attraction and doing all these things like in a practical way. And it wasn't until my diagnosis where I remember like checking off this invisible box of like, I am done suffering. I am done. I will not ever get to this point again. And I knew in that moment that I didn't know if tomorrow was guaranteed, but I just felt like my back was against the wall and I had to figure it out. I literally felt like I was leaving this toxic culture of motherhood and womanhood. And I guess like looking back now, I didn't realize it was like minimalism, But I had to like unlearn all of these things and I had to stop overdoing it because that was not going to make me feel any better. But I knew that if I wanted to feel alive and energized and healthy, I needed to figure that out. And that was how energetic time management was born. So I tell people all the time, how do you want to feel? They know how they don't want to feel.
Yes.
They know they don't want to feel like crap. They don't want to be depleted. They don't want to be angry and resentful. So we know how we want to feel. And most of the time, like, great, I'll give you the 6-step framework, but you have to give yourself permission to do the damn thing. And sometimes it's 10 minutes at a time. And since 2013, not only have I been like rinsing and repeating this own process in my own life, but as I continue to do this and to talk about it, these women were coming to me. And at first it started with parenting. And then I watched them do this in their jobs, whether it was in corporate, whether it was self-employment. Then I watched them do it in their marriages. And this energy leaks, as I call them, this lack, like this self-abandonment that was occurring constantly. And I was like, what does it mean if you actually give yourself permission to want what you want? What does it mean if you say, no, thank you, I don't have the capacity for that? Or, you know, we've already been to 5 holiday events. We don't have any more room on our calendar. Or, you know, I just hear it every day. I need to do this. I need to do that. And I'm like, what do you want? And most of the time I am met with a blank stare of, I don't remember the last time I asked myself that. And so energetic time management was actually what saved me, but it was what was required. But in the moment, I never believed that that was the quote unquote key that I was always searching for. And so I created it out of a necessity to stay alive, to feel alive. And then since then, when people are like, I just don't know how to buy back my time and energy, I don't know how to reclaim my life.
Yeah.
Like, Heather, I'm doing all the damn things. And I'm like, if it's not working, there is another way. And 80% of what you're doing is most likely busy work or performative action. And the reality is you could do less better and get the greater ROI because what you're actually after is a feeling and not the actual thing.
So going back to your story related to saying it felt good because our culture rewards us for like being that woman that can seemingly do all the things, run a business, work, climb the corporate ladder, raise kids, and like do all and keep a clean house and do it with a smile on, right? So I'm curious if you also felt, while you felt liberated through this process, if it also felt scary at times because deep down you knew you had to fill that void. You would no longer be getting this surface level, hey, good job, or oh, you're crushing it. Like, what did that look like? Or did people still do that? And you still, again, do you get what I'm saying?
Okay, so previous to motherhood, and my story is a little different because I like started so young, I actually identified as a rebel. So I didn't seek a lot of external validation in the sense like I wasn't the A+ student, like good girl. And so that like questioner in me of like, but why, that was my nature. And so I abandoned that part of myself to be good in the world. And so what I realized was I've always sought out like emotional freedom and like spiritual freedom. Like my soul needed to feel free. So anytime I felt controlled, I would always push against that. So I always was looking from the inside out instead of the outside in. But I started looking from the outside in because I thought that's what success was. And I wanted to make sure I didn't fail. So the interesting part here, Katie, is when you say, was that scary? It was only scary because I felt like I was leaving a tribe. Like there's like a tribal, like I was getting kicked out because I felt disconnected from modern motherhood and modern womanhood. So like a perfect example of this is you go to one of your children's events. And typically when you are like trying to make friends or a conversation with somebody, they're trying to create connection through suffering. And so you'll hear like, oh my God, isn't life so chaotic? Or da da da. Oh, I've been running around. I don't identify with that. And nor did I even want to cultivate and create connection that way. And so I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to buy into this. And so I would be met with, oh shit, like I need to figure out how to create connection with women and myself, because connection is something I want to feel a different way. And slowly, I was like, Heather, you are here to change the current, to change the conversation. And so I would sit with myself and go, okay, if she's trying to create connection through suffering, through chaos, through busyness, what's one thing that you could say to shift the conversation? And when I started doing that, we got to the root. We got to the deeper combos. And that's when I could truly start to create like connection with women. Mm-hmm. So the scary part wasn't about having like white space on my calendar, which is often the thing for women. Because I hear it all the time. They're like, Heather, now I have the time and energy. I don't know what to do with it. What's next? And I was like, what a good problem to have, where you're like, now I have the capacity. I've just never been this version of myself before. How do I get to the next level, the next level, the next level? I'm like, well, you now get to fill these gaps with things that bring you joy. And sometimes you won't know how to define that. And that's okay. You can be in a testing phase.
The listeners who might be burned out, exhausted, and they're thinking, okay, this sounds great on paper, but I'm looking at my schedule, or I'm looking at my to-do list, and these are things that truly need to get done, or things that I simply have to do because I have to take my kid to basketball and I have to go to the grocery store. So what are some things that you work with your clients on, or maybe you started with yourself on, from a very practical, tangible, like simplifying means?
Yeah. So number one, you don't have to do anything. We have convinced ourselves that we are the only person that can do that, because the thought of somebody else taking your child to an event or carpooling makes you have to feel your feelings. You feel guilt, you feel shame, you feel all the feelings that we are trying to distract ourselves from actually feeling. So we'll busy ourselves and be like, I got to do this, I got to do that. And I think the conversation is slowly shifting, where they're like, please don't do all the things. Like we are over nurturing and over mothering in modern culture to a degree that is incredibly unhealthy. It is not good for not only like the parents' mental health, it's causing relationship breakdown. I actually think it's really affecting our children's mental and emotional well-being as well. So here's the thing. It's going to be emotionally uncomfortable. Like it is really going to be emotionally uncomfortable. I don't believe in hard things. I don't believe, we can do hard things. I had this conversation with someone, ironically, a man that was on my newsletter. And he's like, I don't agree with you. And I said, that's okay. You don't have to. He goes, I believe in hard things. That's where I got to where I am. I said, hard almost killed me. I think as women, we're addicted to hard. We're really good at it. We're performative. We love the doing. It's killing us and it's not getting us to where we want to go. So the first thing I tell my clients to do is to pen and paper, not AI, not your, note section on your phone, pen and paper, right at the top. Wouldn't it be nice if? And give yourself 5 minutes and just write down every single thought that comes to your mind. Wouldn't it be nice if I could have a glass of water? Wouldn't it be nice if so-and-so listened to me? Wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to work as hard as I work? Wouldn't it be nice if whatever? Everything that you write down is a desire. It could be something as simple as, wouldn't it be nice if I didn't have to think about dinner tonight? Wouldn't it be nice if I took a 6-month sabbatical from work? Or wouldn't it be nice if my partner was on board? Like everything is a desire inside of you. As women, we are taught not to pay attention to those. We're like, I don't have time for that shit. I'm telling you right now, if and there's 4 types of energy I teach women to manage: mental, physical, emotional, spiritual energy. Everything on that list is aligned with spiritual energy. There is something inside of you that has a desire. We can get really woo-woo. This is not about religion. It's about, there's a soul. You're a soul having a human experience. And that part of you needs to be nurtured. And so when you look at that plant sitting in your office and go, I wonder why it died. Well, it died because it had no sunlight. You didn't give it water. There was no nourishment. And that's what's happening to us. And so when you wake up one day and you're like, I don't know who I am. So I remember writing these lists over and over and over again, especially after my diagnosis. The next thing I want you to do, so this is step 2. You're going to go line by line and you're going to ask yourself, if I achieve that thing, what is the feeling that I'm actually after? And you're going to find out that it's going to be things like, I want to feel alive. I want to feel strong. I want to feel respected. I want to feel connected. Nobody in the history of me doing this with people, women from all over the place, have said, you know what? I really want to feel like shit. I want to feel depleted. Resentment. Oh boy.
Bring it on, honey. Give me more of it.
Yeah. Nobody wants to feel that way. We know how we want to feel, right? And so there's no perfection here. Perfection is a coping strategy. It's not necessarily a personality trait. You're just so used to it. So, okay, you want to feel alive. Like I remember writing this down. I had nothing left in me, no energy. And I was writing my list down and I'm like, how do I want to feel? And I wrote down alive, energized. And I'm like, and then step 3 was, okay, well, first of all, I got absolutely scared because I'm like, I don't have evidence of an alive version of myself. Like there's not a time in my life, especially because I went in right from teenagehood to adulthood, like traumatically, and I didn't have that gap to figure out who I was or what I wanted to do. So I didn't have any evidence of when I felt alive, like truly alive. And so that's an energy. You have to have, even if it's 10 minutes a day, a tiny capacity to discover and be curious. Like, what is that? So as I'm laying there at home, no energy, nothing to give, back against the wall, I started asking myself, what would an alive person do? And this is where it gets really uncomfortable for people.
Yes.
Because I could see people walking outside of my house, like down the street. And I'm like, that looks so boring. Going for a walk looks so boring. Why don't they just run? I mean, now in hindsight, I can see why I started telling myself that, because it was like the cortisol rushing through my body. So I started going for a walk. I was like, okay, Heather, you're going to physically put a 10-minute walk on your calendar. Number 1, I barely had the energy for it. Number 2, I was like, this is so boring and uncomfortable. I had to sit with my emotional discomfort. I remember one day, and this is before Instagram was what it is today, I put go to a cafe, and my youngest, so I have 3 boys. My youngest was a year old when I was diagnosed. I think this must have been after, I don't know. So he was like super small. I went to a cafe. I literally put this on my calendar. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to journal. I'm going to have a latte. I just cried the whole time because I tell people when you start doing this, what's ever inside of you is going to come up and out, right? So if you had a cup of coffee and you wanted it like clear, you wanted to fill that cup with water, it's not necessarily dumping out all the coffee. You just have to 10x the amount of water that you're pouring into it in order to like flush out all the coffee. And so it's the same with if you're full of resentment, if you're full of guilt, if you're full of insecurity, if you're full of emptiness, you have to like put little pockets of like with it. You have to invest in yourself. Just little moments of time, right? And so as I started doing that, I just cried. I felt so guilty. There was so much guilt inside of me. But here's the interesting part. As I became more whole, I felt more alive, more connected. So when my children, because this is a big part of why people come to me, when my children like were reflecting back to me that they were struggling, I'm like, I've got you. I've got you. I have the capacity to be present. I have the capacity to be calm in the chaos. I have the capacity for critical thinking skills. I have the capacity to have this really emotionally uncomfortable conversation in my marriage. And I have the capacity to open my bank account and to feel really scared when I'm like, oh gosh, all these things. And so you learn to co-create your life with how you want to feel. And it's from the inside out. It's never going to be from the outside in.
I love this step by step. You're giving us so much. And I'm curious, with the step where it's like, what's the feeling I'm after? Alive, energetic, connected, I think is a really big one. So many of us desire and crave. As you're going through and then asking the next question, like, what does that person do who feels this way? As you're going through this process, I'd imagine you're also kind of identifying, oh, not only am I not doing those things, but there's things that are actually I'm doing that are going against that are bringing the opposite feeling. So that leads me to ask, like, did you, for lack of a better word, declutter a lot of tasks you were doing or things you were doing, things you were believing, all that stuff to kind of make more space to take the walk, to feel energetic, feel alive?
It is wild to me. So I now have a belief that the older I get, this has nothing to do with my children. The older I get, the more responsibility I have, which there is a lie that like the older your children get, the easier it gets. For me, that hasn't been my experience or anybody that I talk to. They're like, no, they require you to become a different version of yourself, which I can argue is actually they need more of you because they need more of you emotionally. They need you to be on your game because you're more of a leader. You're not just like making sure they're fed and clothed. The older I get, the more responsibility I have, the lighter I feel, the more time I have, which is so counterintuitive to what we're taught. And I've been thinking about this and I'm like, it's because we're decluttering constantly. We can look in a closet, we can look in our room and go, oh, there's physical things that I need to let go of, right? To create newness. Nobody does that with their emotions. Nobody does that with their identity. So 100%. Everything, I was like, I don't have the capacity for this. I have to let it go. One of the first things that I noticed was my role in relationships with other people. It was like slow motion where I could see, oh my gosh, I'm the rock for people. I'm the strong one. I'm the responsible one. And so when the rock is not okay, AKA sick, who do we go to? And I remember being like, I can't be people's therapist. I mean, my background's in social work. I can't be people's therapist when I'm at a rock bottom. And so I was like, I'm out. Nope, I'm not going to talk. I'm going to hold boundaries with this person. They can figure it out. I'm not going to rescue them. I'm not going to make them feel comfortable. And so I just slowly discovered how to hold mental boundaries with myself and also other people, physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, spiritual boundaries. And the decluttering happened naturally. Like something as simple as we all have that person that texts us in a 911 like crisis. And you're like, okay, that's not an actual crisis, but it is for them. And if you're like the strong one, you respond because you're like, oh, just take me 2 seconds, da, da, da. It's these little energy leaks that we don't realize are sucking the life out of us emotionally. And when you learn to go, how do I want to feel? You start to create capacity. So not only can you hold more, but you're actually not holding it. It's like coming in and then out. And so I don't know. I feel so spacious in my life now, but my children also laugh and joke and they're like, you don't do much around here. And what they mean by that is not that I don't do much. Cause I'm like, guys, I'm the visionary. I'm like, I'm always watching you, but yes, maybe I'm not going to, I'm like, I've promoted myself to, you're just trying to manipulate me because you don't want to do the dishes or do your own laundry. But the reality is like, I've decluttered all of this stuff because I've given myself a promotion.
I love that. Can you talk to me about more of these energy leaks? I'm curious, the example of boundaries, right? And I think of someone who like maybe at one point you did get a lot of joy from and had the capacity for being the rock for people in your life. And then it became too much. Maybe you're in a tough season. Like, how do you find that line between like, hey, no, like I do want to show up and I have the capacity versus like it's turning into an energy leak? And how do you make the call when to like draw that boundary?
Well, it's very addictive to want to help people, right?
Yeah.
It's we get a lot of our value from being of service to other people as women, like our children. If you are in a service-based industry, there's strength in nurturing. And the shadow of that is overdoing, over mothering, over nurturing. And anyone with older children, when they're starting to leave the nest, who looks in the mirror and says, I don't know who I am without that, you can start to feel the contrast. So I don't tell people, they're like, oh, like you can tell when someone's like overdoing it, over nurturing it, and there's culture in there as well.
Yeah.
But I say, when something's not working for you anymore, because you're secretly becoming resentful. And the reason why you're becoming resentful is because there's an invisible boundary that you've crossed for yourself. So something that I will tolerate is something that my neighbor won't tolerate. And so you have to ask yourself what's working and what's not working. And then go, okay, great. If this isn't working, what do I need to say would make this okay? And invisible energy leaks happen everywhere. I just did this on my team, and watch what is keeping you up at night. That's an invisible energy leak. And I did this on my team because I wrote like, not a resentment list, but I was like, what am I no longer willing to tolerate? And I had some really, really uncomfortable conversations. And I asked people to raise. I said, I've raised the standard for myself. And I let some people go. And this was really, really hard conversation. Sometimes it works, and then until it doesn't work anymore. And that also goes with the kids. I think we're afraid to have uncomfortable conversations with our own children because culturally we have become pleasers to our children, catering to their every need and going, you know what? Until we get this garbage bag full of shit in your room, I'm not buying you anything else. And no, that's not okay. And it's okay to give pushback. It's okay to say like, this is no longer working for me. And people will give you pushback. And of course, your children will always give you the worst pushback and they know exactly how to push your buttons, but you know what is not working. And I think from this conversation, it's about giving yourself permission that I know this is slowly killing me and I just need to nip it now, whether it's a conversation, a boundary. But so much of when people are like, I'm yelling, I'm resentful, I'm like, that's a coping strategy. You don't have to be yelling all the time. And yes, people are like, you need to emotionally regulate and you also need to declutter. Like, there's no reason. Something as simple, like this is a super practical example. I remember back in the day, the hustle in the morning where I was like, what is it with this one child out of all three boys? We cannot get out in the morning and it's causing so much stress and chaos. And I was determined. To solve this problem. And so I'm like, what do I need to declutter? What do I need to let go of? And it came down, he's got some sensory stuff. It came down to his socks. I was like, you can go to bed with your clothes. We can get your clothes out the night before. Came down to the damn socks. And so I was like, which socks will you wear? He had this one pair of socks. I was like, great. I'm throwing away all these other socks. It's such a practical example of an energy leak that we tolerate until we no longer tolerate. And if we stop and think, and we are smart enough to create solutions, we just have to give ourselves permission to do it.
What do you notice both in yourself going through this? And I imagine a lot of your friends really are big believers in this emotional framework you're talking about, and your clients. What do you notice weeks or months into this journey for them? What starts to happen? What starts to change? And especially for the non-believers, someone who's like, I'm going to do it, but I don't know.
I just had this conversation with a woman this morning. So it depends on the level of surrender. So someone's like, well, what's the ROI? What's the value? I need to know, okay, tell me the step-by-step strategic, in 2 weeks, expect this. In 4 weeks, expect this. And I'm like, listen, if you are coming to an emotional challenge with a logical problem or solution or plan, it's not going to work. And you have to become a different version of yourself. And so I always tell people, I've been doing this long enough that in 30 to 60 days, you don't feel an emotional release or relief, money back guarantee. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, because you're going to be a huge pain in the ass. I'm like, if you work it, it will work. And so what they often say is like, I thought you were lying. I thought you were crazy. I'm like, listen, when you master something, it's also wild because we're not taught this as women. And so you can go, I can have more time. I can have more energy. I have one client in particular is popping into my mind. She's a pharmacist. She's professional and her husband has a chronic illness. She has two boys. One is diabetic and the other one has like ADHD and colitis, I'm almost certain, and Crohn's, something like that. So a lot of stuff going on for her. She came in and she followed the process, super logical, professional woman. And now to this day, I was like, how can you explain it? She's like, I am the calm in the chaos. Like I am the calm in the tornado. The amount of emotional capacity she has to manage everything, but it's little tiny things like, you know, she's in the middle of something and she gets the call from the school and her son's like, I don't feel good. I want to come home. She's like, old me would have ran to the school and would have picked him up. She's like, current me is like, are you going to die? No, you can handle this for another 60 minutes. And I think we're just so used to rescuing everybody else that we don't even think anymore. And so I love it when people are like, okay, now I'm bored. I got more time. I have more energy. I'm like, what a good problem to have. But when you get there, you've promoted yourself and you can think about your next level vision. Like we have decided this year that we're going to move away temporarily for a season for the winter. And I have been dreaming this up for years and years and years. And now that I'm getting close to it, like mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, financially, preparing for this, first of all, trying to get my husband on board, trying to get him out of like a 9 to 5 so that we can like have the like fluidity, like all the things. And then now my middle son who's 16 is like, I don't want to go. I'm like, for crying out loud. I'm like, if you are going to be the thing that gets me, I'm like, absolutely not. But here's the thing. I've been preparing for this. And I'm like, I'm not saying that this needs to be easy or emotionally comfortable. I am just determined to live my one precious life. And in order to get here, I had to declutter so much. I don't give a shit what people think. When I tell my baby boomer parents what I'm doing and then they decide like to project all their fear onto me, I'm like, I'm not taking that on. Or friends that say, oh, must be nice. And I'm like, it is. Thank you so much. I've worked my ass off to get here. Or my child who has resistance. And I'm like, it's okay. It's okay. One day you will look back and say, that was life enhancing for me. And we have to realize what's in us. It's for us. And I don't think women, number one, usually don't identify as leaders. Like sometimes they're like, oh, I'm a leader at work. But you don't realize that you're the energetic leader of your home. And every time I see a woman lead, the partner always follows. You are the ecosystem. You are the environment creator. And that is such a powerful force. And so if we're not valuing that, it becomes incredibly disruptive. So I could go on and on and on.
I just have a quick question related to the move. I'd imagine, could you share with the listeners, because you mentioned before we hit record, is it also a downsizing? Has any decluttering needed to take place or?
Well, we're staying, like we're keeping the home that we live in now.
Got
it. But when we go there for 3 months, we're just renting a place. And we're going to go to Mexico for 3 months. And yeah, I just plan on bringing the essentials of what I use every single day. I find that so freeing too, of like the things we don't even need, the crap we don't even need. And I love the culture because the lack of consumerism, the lack of like, oh, I'm bored, so let's go to the mall and buy stuff. It's like, no, I'm bored. Let's go to the beach. Let's have like let's connect. Let's create let's go and talk to other humans. So I'm really, really looking forward to that. Yeah. And on that note, it actually brought up something else. Our home that we live in has flooded 3 times in our basement, but the crawl space where all the extra crap goes. And I can't tell you, I don't miss any of that. Besides like some photos that got ruined, I've never thought of any. I've never go, oh, yeah, we lost that. Oh, it happened 3 times. And 2 out of those 3
Wow.
times we lost so much. So every time there was a huge grieving process we would go through. But I knew I was like, this or something better. Like, this is a huge declutter. It's a huge reset. But I have never once said, oh, I missed something. And then you buy it or you bring something in as needed. But fascinating how much shit we hang on to that is not serving us.
This is so true. So this leads me to kind of a little bookend of our conversation I ask every guest, and that is, if you could declutter one thing from your life forever, what would that be?
The first thing that's coming up is like people that are no longer serving you, like people that you are carrying because you are afraid to let them go. And I'm sure someone can hear that and go, oh crap. When you can decide, I want you to visualize this, that you're running a race, the race of life. Who are you actually carrying versus who is running next to you? And I remember a pivotal moment when I was like, I am no longer going to carry anybody, because I didn't realize I was always carrying people. So it's such a big energy leak when you are carrying somebody. But yeah, it would be just putting people down, and doesn't mean they're out of your life. It's that you're not picking up what's not yours to carry. And if they might leave, and that's okay.
So on the flip side of that coin, what's one thing you have in your home you would never let go of?
This is one random, it just popped into my head is, well, it sounds interesting, but a diffuser, like essential oil diffuser. And I think the reason behind that is because it creates for me, it creates a smell and an energy and an essence of home. I love it when people walk into my house and go, I love the feeling here. And so I always consider the senses. And so that was the first thing that popped into my head.
That's beautiful. Heather, you've built such a beautiful community around your work. So for the women listening who want to keep exploring and learning more about everything you teach, where would you point them to start?
Yeah. So go to the podcast, Emotionally Uncomfortable. I talk a lot about like the practical strategies of this. There's actually my energetic time management framework. It's like a free resource. There's like a 6-step process. So I try to take these big, complex ideas and break it down. So kind of like what we talked about today, but in more depth. That resource is on my website, Heather Chauvet, CHAUVIN.com. Actually, I think if you go to myname.com/10 hours, there's like a PDF and a video and all the thing. And then my book, Dying to be a Good Mother, which you can find anywhere books are sold online, Audibles, all the things.
Oh my gosh. I am so glad. And I should have mentioned to the listeners, Megan Summerall. They know Megan. They love Megan. Connected Heather and I. So I know I have 3 pages of notes. I always have so many notes, and I just appreciate your wisdom. Thank you for sharing your story. And by the way, obviously, you've made a rebound with your health. So I'm so happy everything turned out so well for you.
Yes. Besides having a cold today, which
besides a cold,
I now get sick like once a year. It's like that declutter of like, okay, you got a little like reset. But other than that, I'm thriving. I'm healthier than I've ever been. And even my whole attitude around that, like, online space, perimenopause, all the things. I'm always asking myself, how good can I feel? How good can it get? And so I'm very proactive with my health instead of reactive. I also don't live in denial that like anything can change at any moment, like one precious life. But I truly believe we are worthy of feeling good. And so just do what's required and like one little baby step at a time. But yeah, healthier than I've ever been, and so grateful for my health.
Your message and your story are just so inspiring and encouraging. And I think even too, I can catch myself falling into these patterns of like, I don't know what needs to give, to continue to simplify. I kind of feel like I'm in phase 10, but like I need to break through the 5th wall.
I know.
And I'm excited to do these steps you talked about.
It's funny because people are like, okay, I did that module. I did, what's next? And I'm like, implement. It's like when you're trying to like gain more muscle or, okay, keep eating, keep going to the gym, like rinse and repeat. It is boring to do this work, So you have to find joy and excitement in all these other areas. New level, new devil. You're like, what the heck? I thought I solved this problem. No one's ever got it figured out. There's always new things. And honestly, Katie, this is why I love like surrounding myself with other women, because I was saying to somebody else, when someone's like, why are you still doing that? And they're like, stop doing that. I'm like, okay, thank you. Like, it's just permission seeking. And that's why women need each other. I know sometimes we're like afraid of each other, but you know, when you're in a healthy circle, like we don't need to know everything. Everyone's got their area of expertise. And then we just support each other with our wisdom and our gifts and our skills.
That is so beautiful. Heather, thanks again for being on the show today.
Thank you.